And right now in the studio joining us, we have Peter Suneson. Well, a version thereof, I guess.
Exactly. You might have thought Halloween was over. It's not. We're going to parlay it on for a couple more days.
I love it. I love it. We've got a beautiful beak.
Thank you very much. And so what I have done today is I have come as a raven. Could have been a crow, but one of the distinct things about a raven is that this beak, my top layer of my beak, is much more curved.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be a distinct raven bill. Another way you can tell ravens and crows apart is a raven is going to have a tail that kind of points back. A crow is going to be a very flat-backed tail.
Oh, gotcha. Any size difference between the two?
It's another good one. So if you see it flying, if you see a big blackbird soaring, not flapping its wings so much, chances are it's going to be a raven. Crows are a little bit smaller and they flap their wings a lot more.
Okay. Now, I know that we do see these blackbirds here in the mountains year-round, so they don't really migrate, do they?
They'll migrate a little bit, but they do stay here year-round. There are 120 species of the Corvidae family, and that's what we're talking about today.
Whoa.
Ravens, jays, magpies, crows, all member of the Corvidae family, and they're incredibly smart.
Yes.
So if someone calls you a bird brain, at this point you can say thank you very much. The Corvidae family has the body-to-brain ratio just below humans.
Oh, wow.
So they actually, their brain is, huge compared to the size of their body, kind of like ours.
Well, if you've ever been out on a picnic or hung outside in the mountains for long enough and been around some magpies, those things are the most clever birds I think I've ever seen.
Exactly. Magpies and then gray jays. If you've ever been up to Lost Lake or, you're eating lunch around some of the lakes, gray jays will come and they can even open your Ziploc bag. They'll, snack. We don't like to feed them, but they'll come get it. The snack is best they can.
Exactly. Well, that's the cunning part of those birds. So that's really very interesting. So tell us a little bit about how long do they live? What's the lifespan of a lot of these birds?
So in the wild, Corvidae, or crows and ravens, generally will live 7 to 13 years. In captivity, they can live up to 40.
Whoa.
Which is incredible.
Wow.
They are tameable. There are domesticated crows and ravens that you can live in houses or with people. I worked at a nature center in Illinois that had a resident crow that lived in the nature center. It was incredibly smart. If you leave pennies or nickels out, it would steal them and put them in his little hiding spots.
That is awesome. So what about in the winter? What happens with birds? How do they insulate themselves? Because I know that's another thing is they don't really have the body fat of some of the mammals, correct?
It's a great question. So yeah, they've got feathers. Ravens are going to have a much bushier kind of neck feathers, really kind of soft and downy. But what's really neat about birds is their feet. They're going to be perching, in the snow or on those frozen branches. They actually have very, very few blood vessels that run up and down their legs. Okay. So it's kind of, they're not pumping blood through that cold environment as much. So they're not going to get as cold as we would.
Frostbite or anything like a human would get if they were to put their bare hand in the snow for an hour.
Exactly. They just don't have as much blood running through there, so their blood is not going to cool down as much as ours would.
Now, what's the diet of a lot of these birds? Because I know, like we had mentioned, the magpies and other birds will steal about anything.
Right. So they're all, for the most part, opportunistic feeders. There are nutcrackers, Clark's nutcrackers, Steller's jays. Those kind of birds like to eat nuts, seeds, from the conifers, pine trees, stuff like that. But for the most part, they will eat anything they can get their hands on. Crows and ravens have been known to be carrion feeders, so they'll roost on dead animals. And one of the really neat things about crows and ravens is that if they can't get into a carcass, it's still sealed up, it's dead, but they can't get in it, they can imitate a wolf's howl, attract other wolves in. The wolves will, get first dibs, get to rip it up, and then the ravens and crows will come in and clean up the mess.
Wow, that is just wild.
They're clever.
I had no clue about that. Well, Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Always love having a Birdman on.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. And one more thing, can you just say nevermore for the camera?
Nevermore.
Said the Raven. Stay tuned to Good Morning Vail. We do have the last little bit of the show coming up.